Abeka Geometry Construction 11. Construction 11 says that we need to divide a given line into any number of equal parts. Right? So let's say I've got this line and I want to divide it into, well, okay, before we start off, I've taken the same line and I've constructed it twice, so these lines are the same size. They're congruent and equal to each other. And what we're going to do is the first one, we're going to construct it into 5 equal parts. The second one, we're going to construct into 3 equal parts, right? The way we're going to do this is we're going to start off by drawing a diagonal from one end of the line across the paper. So let's start with our diagonal. Right. So, step 1, I'm going to draw a diagonal. Now, this diagonal does not have to be a certain length. It just has to be long enough for us to mark off some distances with our compass. Right? And the main difference between doing a 5 equal parts, or 3 parts equal parts, or 4 equal parts, or 7 equal parts, however many equal parts they tell you, the only difference between the constructions is the number of times you're going to do a particular step. And that particular step is this one right here. So once I've drawn this diagonal, it's usually easier if the diagonal is longer than the given line. Once I've drawn this diagonal, I then take my compass. I'm going to set it for a particular distance. I don't want it to be too big. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at this vertex of this angle I've created. I'm going to mark off this distance 5 times. All right, so that's 1 time. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do it again. That's 2 times. And 3 times. 4 times. Oops. And 5 times. All right, so once I've marked this off 5 times, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 5th marking, and then I'm going to create a triangle. All right. So with this last point on the 5th marking, I then create a triangle with the given line. All right. Now, once I've done that, now what I'm going to do is, if you view it from this direction, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to construct parallels through each one of these intersections. Right? And the way I do that is I'm going to do an angle reconstruction. I'm going to reconstruct this angle right here. Okay? So it really helps to turn your paper around while you're doing these constructions so you don't get confused. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this angle right here. I'm going to reconstruct it on all of these marks in the middle, so that way I've got 5 parallel lines, and then those parallel lines will mark off equal segments in the triangle. That's a different theorem earlier in the book. So there's this first marking, keeping it the same distance. I go to the next one, and I do it again. Then the next one, and I do it again. And the next one, and I do it again, and the last one, do it one more time. All right, so I've taken, for the angle reconstruction, I've taken this arc and I've reconstructed it. I've done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times for 5 pieces. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the distance between the 2 legs of this angle. So sharp end there. Oh, looks like they might be perfect already. Okay, so once I've got that distance, then I go to the next one and I do the same thing. Gonna make the same mark. And then I go to the next one, I make the same mark. Now you'll notice on these bigger constructions, the number of marks you're making on the paper can get a little bit confusing. So sometimes it helps to erase your marks in between steps. If you need to, go ahead and do that. I'll demonstrate that one on the next construction. All right. Now you'll notice on this last one, my mark actually goes underneath the given line. That's okay. All I have to do is take the new points and connect them. So I've created that point, which is already connected, that point, that point, that point, and that point. I'm going to connect it with this point, this point, this point, and this point. All right. So sometimes erasing or marking what you're doing will help you out. So, wait, is that the wrong? Oh, sorry, wrong points. Not these. Again, erasing might help a lot. So I picked the wrong points here. I'm not connecting these two. I'm connecting these two, right? So I'm connecting the end segments I made originally. So if you remember, I made 5 marks up here to cut this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And from here, I went from this vertex to that angle. So I need to connect the vertex and the angle, the vertex and the angle, the vertex and the angle, the vertex and the angle. All right. Again, so real quick note, the way I was able to easily tell that I had made a mistake is I was about to draw this first line, and I saw that's definitely not parallel to this base line that I've got here. So that's good knowledge to have. You know, all these lines have to be parallel to coincide with that proof from, I believe, section 2 in the book. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and line those up. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so, oh, whoops, that line needs to get drawn a little bit darker. There we go. All right. So once we've done all that, we can see this baseline has now been constructed into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. And we'll go ahead and check them through measurement. I've got about 1.8 centimeters. And wait, where's the end line? There it is. Oh wait, whoops, I measured that one wrong. That's about 2.5 centimeters, and then here we've got another 2.5 centimeters, 2.5. This one's 2.5, and this last one is about 2.6, but there's some slight variation due to errors with the compass. But that's how you do the construction. All right, so we'll do it one more time with 3 parts, just to make sure we've got all the steps down, and hopefully I won't make any mistakes on lining up the dots here. All right, so again, first step, step 1 is I'm going to draw a diagonal line that goes away from the given line. Doesn't matter what angle, doesn't matter what length, it just has to be long enough for me to mark off some equal sections. All right, then from there, since I'm cutting it into 3 parts, I'm going to mark off 3 equal sections on this line I just drew. I'll make this one bigger so that way we'll have less room for error. So there's 1 section, there's 2 sections, and here's 3 sections. I could have made that even larger. That's all right. From there, I go to the end of my 3rd section and the end of my given line. I go ahead and connect those 2 points to create a triangle. All right. Then I'm going to turn my paper over, and I'm going to reconstruct this angle 3 times, so that way I can make some parallel lines to cut off some equal segments. So I'll go back to my compass, put the sharp end on the vertex, put a line through both ends, copy that arc, and copy that arc. All right. And then, oh, I said I was going to erase as I went. Oh, I guess I needed an eraser. All right. So to help clean this up a little bit, I'll make those a little bit smaller. Still need to see those intersections though, so I can't completely erase these marks, but I can make them a little bit smaller. And then I'm also going to dot those marks so I don't forget them. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Those are my 3 vertexes. All right. From there, I'm going to take my compass. I'm going to measure the distance between these 2 intersections so I can copy this angle. All right, testing mark. All right, and then from here, I'm going to final mark. Final mark. All right, so now that I've made those intersections using these arcs, I'm now going to connect these 2 points. All right. All right, and then if we turn this over, we can see we've cut off 3 equal segments on the given line. And we can test this through measuring. Here I've got about 4.4 centimeters. And I've got another, wait, did I measure that right? Hold on, let me see here. Yep, 4.4, and I've got 4.3, okay, slightly off. And then 4.4 again. All right, so again, there's going to be some imperfection with this, usually depending on how dull your pencil lead is, which mine's starting to get a little bit dull. But this is the proper construction, and if done perfectly, you won't have that 1/1000th of a meter variation. That's it for construction 11. Construction 12 and 13 will probably also get their own videos because these are some pretty lengthy ones. If you have any questions, let me know in class, or let me know on the website, and I will see you in class.